Hi again, Ron here with another instructional video to help you get more out of Excel working on your iPad. This particular is covering the Excel menu that is on the iPad, which is a different menu than if you were accessing Excel on a Mac or a PC even. So it makes sense to take the time to go over the things that I'm explaining in this video. Because knowing how to use the built-in menu is really important to you if you're going to be creating worksheets in Excel when you're using your iPad. Now you'll notice that there's a whole bunch of menu items, but as far as this video is concerned, I have concentrated on the ones that you're going to need most often. And what I find is if you become proficient at the ones that I cover, as you need the other menu items, it'll be much easier for you to click on them and figure out what it is that you need to do to access them and for the special things that they're used for. A later video will have detailed explanations of all of the menu items, but for now, this is a good way for you to get started. And so when you're going to be thinking that it's math time, hopefully you'll be thinking I need to use the menu that is there for me in Excel when I open Excel so I can do a better job of creating the spreadsheet that I want to create. And what I've shown on this line in blue is a link that you'll probably have to copy it down. And if you enter that in your browser, you'll bring up my website. And on the website, you'll see a list of all of the various videos that I've posted to date. And if you take the time to go through those, it's certainly not all at once, but once you go through all the instructional videos, you'll have taken a major step from going to the position of I'm a math hater to I'm a math whiz, and you'll be able to get there in pretty much no time at all. If you are looking at this video now and you're looking at it in full screen where it's taking up your whole screen, if you go down beyond the bottom of the first screen, you'll see that there's an area for you to post comments. And I encourage you to do that. It would be great if you loved the video and you gave me a thumbs up, bust my buttons, that's good. But if the video is lacking and it's not telling you everything you need to know or you feel like you need to know in a language that you could understand, please tell me that too. Want to give me a thumbs down on the site? Fine, but tell me what it is that I need to do to improve it to the point that it'll solve your problem so you can get more out of the video and do a better job when you're working with menus in Excel. And if you find it in your heart to subscribe to the channel without any charge or anything, all of my subscribers automatically get the links for new videos as I post them. So for that reason, if none other, I really encourage you to go ahead and subscribe to this channel. For those of you that have used Excel on a desktop or a laptop, when you open it on your iPad, what you're going to see is what's depicted on the screen. And the menu items and the things that are important, at least the basic menu items, are going to appear on the two menu bars that you see at the top of the screen, one in green and one in white. And we're going to cover those, not all of them, but those that you are going to use from day one. And so they're going to be important to you if you're going to use Excel on your iPad Pro. So if you look at that top green bar, you see that home is outlined in white, and then across the fields is insert, draw, formulas, data, and so on. We're not going to be talking about anything really other than the home part of the menu. And it's important. It covers a lot of things that you haven't looked at before in this fashion. So let's start out with line 2, the white line. Once home is highlighted, then the items that you see before you on the second row become visible. If you had selected insert, draw, or whatever, the second row of menu items would be different. But just looking across, the first thing that you have there is the typeface. In a minute, I'm going to show you some examples of how to use that. It is shown, and when we open this thing up, you're going to see typefaces that come out in Calibri. And next to the type style is the type size. And in this case, when we actually open it up and show you some data, it'll start out by showing you type, that's the Calibri type name, in size 11. And so now we're going to move down and take a look at actual data and how we would begin to use it using that type. Okay, now what you're looking at is the same thing you were looking at, but this time I put some data in there for you to look at. I'm going to highlight all of that data. And it's meaningless data. It doesn't mean anything at all at this point, other to illustrate how the various menu items work. You see that Calibri body is the first item in the white menu that we looked at before, and it's typeface 11. Well, let's say we want to change from Calibri to something else. I'm going to tap on that cell, and a drop-down menu is going to open, and it's going to give me all of the various typefaces that would be available to me. I happen to like Arial, not too different, but I'm going to select Arial from the drop-down menu when everything is highlighted. And now you see instantly all of the data is changed to Arial size 11. But perhaps size 11 is too small or too big, or I'd rather have it be something else. Well, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap on the 11, and when I do that, another drop-down menu opens. Now I can use the plus and minus keys to go up or down if I like, but in this case, I'm going to say I'd like to have bigger type. After all, I'm old and I don't want to look at the small numbers, and so let's say that I decide I'm going to go with style 16 or size 16. When I do that, instantly all of the data that was highlighted changes to the larger size. Maybe I like that better, maybe I don't. I could make it smaller if I wanted to. I'm going to tap it again. Let's say I wanted to make it 8. I could tap it again. Let's say I wanted to make it 20. Anything that I wanted to do. Now I'm going to go back to the 16 that I had, and for now leave it at that. The one thing that you'll notice is that the quantity column, third column over, isn't wide enough to handle the word quantity now that I have changed the type size. And so we'll deal with that as we continue to look at other menu items across that white bar. So don't sweat it, we'll get to it. Okay, let's keep going along the menu bar. Now that we finish with a couple of options that you have for the type size and face, we're going to look at the next 3 things. You'll notice next to the size 12, and I've gone back to the original 12 Calibri stuff that we started with. You'll notice that I've highlighted the first 3 columns. And after I've done that, I am going to select the letter B, which is right next to the 12. And you'll notice as soon as I did that, the things that I have highlighted changed to bold type. Now that I've done that, I'm going to go to the next column. I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to take the next item on the menu, which is the I. You don't see it real good, but that is now in italics print. The last one, I'll highlight that, and when I select the U with a line under it, no surprise, you'll see that each of the items there are underlined. So now we've gone through the type, size, and style, and we've gone through the next 3 things, and we will continue going from there in a moment. Okay, as we move along, you should notice first that what I've done is I've highlighted all of the data off screen, and I put all of the data back in its original format as far as type size and style. And now that we're there, if you look at the next item or icon, if you will, on the menu bar, it's these 4 little stacked squares. Now I'm going to highlight my data again, all of it this time. I could do part if I wanted, and I'm going to select that little icon. When I do that, the drop-down menu gives me several choices that I can use for the types of borders I may or may not want. Now I've got everything highlighted, and what I'm going to do is I am going to create an outside border. That means that this data will be outlined. And I have 2 choices. I can do a regular one with a just plain line, and I'm going to select the thick line. And then once I do that and then move away, if I get off, you'll see that all of the data is currently highlighted. That was highlighted, I should say, has an outline around it. I'm going to highlight the data one more time. I'm going to select same icon. And then when I do that, you'll notice the second item says all borders, and I'm going to select that. The thick lines are still in place. When I move off of that, you can now see that each one of the cells on my worksheet are outlined with a thick line. Another option that is available to me. While the data is still highlighted, I'm going to go back, highlight it all, and this time I'm going to say no borders. When I do that and get off of it, you'll see that I'm back to where I started. Now, everybody may or may not have a use for this type of outlining, depending on how much time you want to spend putting your worksheet together. But just as a suggestion, assume that the item 1 is just the header row. It isn't, but let's assume that it is. And you want to call people's attention to the header row. So you'll notice that I've outlined just that portion there, and I've selected this, and I've asked for thick outside borders just there. When I select that and I move off, you'll notice that just that first row is surrounded by an outline. The other thing that's available to me in that case, and I'm going to select that, I could go down and I could select line color, a different line color. In this case, I've selected line, and now I have to go through maybe, and I want to do something special with item 5. So I've highlighted that. I say I want a outside border for that with my line color of orange. I don't know if I'm going to get it on this one. And sure enough, I've called people's attention differently to item 5 because that has an orange border around it. While I'm on that field, I'm going to go back and highlight this first area, which we've said could be a header row. And you'll notice next to the stacked boxes, kind of a funny looking icon, and it looks like there's sort of like a finger pointing up. I'm going to tap on that. And when I do, you'll see what it tells me is that I can use different colors as what they call theme colors. And for that first area that I've got outlined, I'm going to select a theme color. And again, if that was a header row, you can see that I've just highlighted it so that it's in a position where you're calling people's attention to it. If that was the header row with the various categories, you can look down that to see where every one of the other items fits in. It's just a way of personalizing the spreadsheet that you're going to perhaps produce. Next to that is that capital A with a line under it. I'm going to tap on that. and that's for font color. And again, if this was a header row, you don't have to do this. Perhaps you want the color of the type to be different. There's another way of calling people's attention to it. And so I'm going to select red. And when I do that, you can see that the type in that top row is now red. I can do that to all or any part of the worksheet just by highlighting the particular cells that I want to do it to. And again, if you start using Excel on a regular basis, maybe you've got presentations or stuff to make, this is going to allow you to come up with a much more professional sheet. Okay, once again, I've put the data back the way it was when we started this whole thing. We're going to move over to the icon that is showing just 4 or 5 lines on the icon. And I'm going to highlight some data here, the first row, if you will. I'm going to select that cell, and it's asking me a couple of things. How do I want the text aligned in a cell? You'll notice that the bottom is checked. If I would change from bottom to top, you'll see that all of the information from that first row is now been moved up to the top of the cell. This is very useful if you have wide cells, like wide rows like we have. You might want all of the data, probably would, to be at the top of the cell. But you have the choice. You could put it in the top, you could choose to put it in the middle, or back the way it was where it was on the bottom. Your choice. And again, it's just a way of personalizing your data to give it the look that you want to give it. Another thing that you can do, and I'm going to just highlight this first row, is you can decide where in the cell the data should be. I'm going to tap on that same one again, and right now it's over on the left. Maybe I want it in the center. And you'll notice that all of the items are centered in the cell. Lots of times people who are doing data in a cell think that it looks better if this stuff is in the middle, maybe in the middle and on the top. So that's what the data would look like if you use that particular cell. Let's put it in the middle and be centered. You could also, if you wanted, put it over on the right-hand side. And occasionally you'll have a reason where you'll think that that would look better for what it is you're trying to accomplish. So that's the way this particular thing functions. Now, before we move on, I want you to know that the next several things, 4 of them, I'm not going to go into in today's explanation. Yeah, you do use those sometimes, but really not on a regular basis. And I know that this video is getting long, and so I'm going to save your explanation for those things for a subsequent video that's going to come at some later date. Well, you've just watched the video on using the Excel menu on your iPad. And the video is really essential for those of you who are going to be creating spreadsheets or solving math problems using Excel on your iPad. The other stuff that you might do, you could maybe get around without too much of the menu items, but it's really a good idea to learn how it is that the menu works. Now recognize there's a lot more items on the menu than the video covers. I wanted to make the video short enough that hopefully will hold your attention till you're through. And I've got all of the basic and most important functions that are available on the menu explained in this video. In subsequent videos, you'll see references to some of the other menu items, and you'll have plenty of time to pick up knowledge on that as you continue to use your iPad to solve things and create spreadsheets in Excel. What is most important, I think, is for you to subscribe to my channel. That way you're going to get copies of all of the new videos as I post them. And to do this, you're going to need a Google email address. And if you don't have one, YouTube will walk you through getting one. And don't feel if you do that you have to give up your existing email. You don't. But if you're going to be downloading stuff from YouTube, whether it's from my channel or other people's channels, or hopefully a combination thereof, you're going to want to use that Google email address to facilitate getting that done. Also, if you go down below the bottom of this screen where you're looking at the video, you'll see that there is an area that you can subscribe to the channel by clicking the link on the lower right-hand side. And you can post any questions that you might have. You'll see there's a place to give me a thumbs up if you really thought the video was worthwhile. If you didn't, I encourage you to tell me what was wrong with it in your eyes. If you want to give me a thumbs down at the same time, that's fine. But if you have a particular question that you feel I didn't cover how you would go ahead and do it, don't be bashful. You can post your question in comments, and I will see it, and I will try to get back to you as quickly as I can. So thumbs up is great if I could get it, but something to boot me in the butt and get me to change something that you had a problem with, that's just as important, if not more important, than the thumbs up. Please understand that you can access any or all of my videos on my website. You probably have to copy the address down to get to that website, and you'll see everything that I've got listed there. If you'd rather, and because you're used to doing it maybe, just to go into the YouTube sites, here's the address of my actual YouTube site. And on that address, all you'll see is all of the various videos that I have posted. So thanks again for watching the video on the Excel menu. I hope to see you guys again on one other of my videos or more of my videos regularly. And without further ado, we'll shut this off, and hopefully you'll move on to seeing something else that I've put together on Excel.